So I want you all just to take a moment with this image up on your screen. The bow of the boat lurches skyward. Waves crash against the hull. Water continues to pour in. 3 of the disciples cling desperately to the sails. 1 hugs the mast. Another retches over the side. Someone is straining to keep the rudder straight. They're desperate, afraid. They have no idea what will happen and little hope of making it out of the situation alive. And yet, one figure sits quietly, stilly, calmly in the center of it all. These are a few of the details in Rembrandt's rendering of today's gospel reading. The painting evokes the terror of the disciples as they face into the storm. The calmness of Jesus is on full display as he sits there in the center of the image. And you can feel the dissonance between them, between the terrified disciples and the placid Jesus. And then we see the light breaking through those storm clouds, which gives the work an almost mythic quality. That light shining onto them points to what will happen next in the story, when Jesus will rebuke the wind and the sea, and the wind will grow still and the sea will grow calm, and their boat will float silently on the water's glassy surface. Art has a way of making the abstract concrete. And in this work, in his gospel, Mark gives us few details of what is happening in the story beyond the bare facts. We get this outline of events and the words of Jesus, but Rembrandt fills that outline in. He freezes the scene in that moment of utmost fear. The boat is on the precipice, about to overturn, to be completely inundated, and to sink down into the sea. We know how the story ends, but the disciples do not. They don't see a way forward and are terrified of the watery grave ahead of them. They know only that a miracle could save them. I can't help but think that Rembrandt chose to put this moment on canvas to draw all of us in, to invite us to see ourselves tossed about by the wind and the waves on the precipice of everything being upended. There may be some of us who have encountered a storm like this, who know viscerally that feeling of being tossed about at sea. The closest I've ever come has been riding out on a boat in relatively choppy waters, but nothing like being stuck in a storm like this. And while not all of us have experienced that kind of storm at sea, I think we can all connect to the fear and uncertainty that the disciples must have felt. So I wonder, when in your life have you felt like there was no way forward? When have you felt powerless in the face of something happening all around you that threatened to change everything? What are the storms in your life that have threatened to shipwreck you? Maybe it was the loss of a loved one. Maybe it was the dissolution of a relationship, a lost job, a life-altering diagnosis, struggles with addiction, or mental illness. Maybe it was a period of financial insecurity. None of us just gets to sail through life on calm seas. The storms will come, and we'll have to face them. Mark in his gospel and Rembrandt in his painting seek to draw us to those moments, to the storms that we have yet to face, so that we can reflect on how it is that we make it through when there seems like there is no way. In this painting, we draw close to the disciples. sharing their uncertainty, but also their hope that Jesus can do something about it. Well, I think visual art can be one important way to be drawn into a story like this. I think poetry also has the power to shed light on a story like what we read in the gospel today. And this weekend, when yesterday marked the first national celebration of Juneteenth, I think it's especially fitting to look at this poem by the 20th century African-American poet Lucille Clifton. It's called Blessing the Boats. You can find a copy of it in your bulletin. She writes, "May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you and your innocence sail through this to that." While Rembrandt's painting focuses in on the experience of the storm, that moment of terror, Clifton's poem is about what lies on the other side. It's a poem of hope and optimism, even faith, but it's not blind to the hardships of life. Lucille Clifton was born in the 1930s to parents who moved northwards in the Great Migration of the early 20th century. She was just 4 generations removed from her great-great-grandparents who were kidnapped, shipped to America, and sold into slavery. The poem and its title bring up the image of boats, that journey, the boats that stole thousands of Africans away from their homelands and families, sending them along the Middle Passage onto a life of toil and exploitation. And Clifton herself experienced the struggles of racial division in 20th century America. She was a survivor of sexual assault and survived multiple rounds by the time she wrote this poem of the cancer that would eventually kill her. She had to face into stormy seas for most of her life, but she wasn't overcome by them. The poem offers an invocation to move beyond the face of fear and to feel a new wind loving our back. In those words, there's a sense of hope for what is to come, a faith that no matter what storms we are facing today, that calmer seas lie ahead. That on the other side of the present moment, there is something new waiting to be realized. This poem echoes a mantra that has been central to the theology of Black Christians since the days of slavery. God makes a way where there is no way. God makes a way where there is no way. In our gospel, the disciples can't see a way forward. For them, there is no way. They have no power to save themselves. They don't trust that there's anyone who will come to their rescue. They're giving in to the sense of that fear and hopelessness. And yet, it's at that moment of despair that Jesus stands up in the boat and calms the wind and the storm. He reveals a way forward where previously there had been none. Just at that moment where it seemed the overturning of the boat was inevitable, where all seems hopeless, God shows a way forward. Just when it seems certain that we will be overcome by the circumstances of our life, that's where God meets us, shows us a way where there was none. Because of his actions, the disciples in the boat are able to cross safely to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Once the sea calms, Jesus asks his disciples, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" They're stunned. They're filled with awe at how suddenly everything had changed. In an instant, their hopeless situation transformed, and they were saved. The miracle on the Sea of Galilee is a reminder that so often we don't have the power in ourselves to save ourselves. None of us can control what happens to us and to the people around us. We don't make our fate or our lot in this life. We'll face many stormy seas and not have the power to withstand them. But we are never alone in facing the things that are most difficult, because God makes a way where there is no way. God can show us a way through even the most dire of storms. And God's love, which often works through the people around us, can see us to the other side of the challenges of this life. This reading calls into question that cliche phrase that God will never give you more than you can bear. The disciples certainly were given more than they could bear. But at that moment, when they realized that they couldn't make it through of their own power, Jesus came alongside them, calmed the storm, delivered them safely through to that other side. All of these works, our gospel reading, Rembrandt's painting, Lucille Clifton's poetry, they all point to that the only way we make it through this life is with the help and companionship of God, who makes a way where there is no way, with the help, companionship, and love of others who are our companions on this journey. And so today, I pray that we may feel God's wind at our back and have faith that that wind will never leave us. And I offer again these words. May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind and turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you in your innocence sail from this to that.